Clara Whit stepped down from the noon train with a blue traveling coat over one arm, a rose-colored bride ribbon pinned to her hat, and a letter from Cyrus Gant folded flat inside her glove. Cyrus stood by the High Mesa stage office with his thumbs hooked in his vest. He looked past Clara as if she were freight delivered to the wrong address. "I sent for a wife with a ranch share," he said, loud enough for the passengers to hear. "Not a woman whose people answer bells for wages." The laugh that followed was small, but it cut. Clara kept her chin level. "You sent for Clara Whit. I am Clara Whit." "Then Clara Whit can go back east." Clara's fingers tightened inside her glove. The return ticket was supposed to be her last safe road home. Without it, she had no husband, no room, no wage, and no name in High Mesa except the one Cyrus was making for her. He turned to Lydia Parr, the station clerk and Clara's own cousin. "Find her return ticket." Lydia's hand hovered over the ticket book. Her face had gone the color of ash. "There is no return ticket recorded." One woman near the luggage cart looked away. A boy laughed until his mother pinched his sleeve. That small mercy hurt almost worse than the laugh. Clara looked at her. "Lydia, I paid for one. You saw the receipt." Cyrus smiled without warmth. "Then you lost it. High Mesa is not responsible for unclaimed baggage." On the bell platform above the yard, the iron warning bell hung silent in the dust. A stagecoach waited below it, horses stamping, passengers shifting, the canyon road open and dangerous. A man with a burn scar down his left cheek stepped from the shade of the harness shed. He wore a black hat, a gray trail coat, and a stage boss's brass badge dulled by hard use. "That bell has not rung in 6 months," he said. Cyrus's smile tightened. "Stay out of it, Tolliver." The scarred man ignored him and looked at Clara's hands. "Can you mend a bell rope?" Clara had answered bells in her father's foundry since she was 10. She knew cracked bronze, warped brackets, tired clappers, and ropes that lied when men cut them. "If the bell is worth saving," she said. $1 supper and a seat on the noon coach after the work," Wade Tolliver said. "Your choice where that coach takes you." $1 would not buy her future, but it would buy 1 hour where Cyrus did not own the story. Clara heard the crowd quiet. No man had asked her choice since she arrived. "Show me the bell," she said. Wade led her across the yard without touching her. That mattered. So did the way he walked beside her instead of ahead, leaving every eye to see she was not being hidden. The High Mesa stage yard sat between the train spur and a red canyon road. Dust lay on everything. The telegraph wire clicked inside Lydia's office. A faded sign promised safe passage through Tolliver Canyon, though the bell above it kept its mouth shut. Clara climbed the first 3 steps of the platform ladder, then stopped to test the rope. It hung slack and dead. "Do not break your neck for $1, Cyrus called. Wade's jaw worked once. "She can step down any time." Clara glanced back. "And lose the $1. A few passengers laughed with her this time, not at her. She climbed higher. The rope was old hemp below, newer splice above. Someone had cut and retied it in a hurry. The knot was too neat for weather. She tugged again. No answering shift came from the clapper inside the bell. "The rope is not the whole trouble," she called down. Wade's eyes lifted, sharp and guarded. "What else?" "Something is holding the clapper." Cyrus stepped forward. "That bell has been useless since the fire. Everyone knows that." Clara looked at Wade's scar before she could stop herself. He did not flinch, but his face closed. She climbed down with care. "Fire can warp a bell, it does not tie a clapper still." Lydia shut the ticket book so fast the cover cracked. Wade heard it too. His gaze went from Lydia to Cyrus, then back to Clara. "Tools are in the shed, open yard, everyone can watch. I pay when the bell speaks." "She is a rejected bride," Cyrus said. "You put stage safety in her hands, and I will have your license pulled by sundown." "I have 3 freight men in Carson who will swear this yard is unsafe," Cyrus said. "One complaint from me, Tolliver, and your stage line becomes firewood." Wade stepped close enough for Cyrus to lower his voice, but not close enough to start a fight. You have wanted my license since your toll wagons began missing the warning turns. Prove that. Maybe she will. The words did not sound romantic. They sounded like trust laid down in public, and Clara felt the weight of it more than any compliment. Inside the shed, Wade pointed to tools on a bench and then stepped back into the open doorway. No locked door, he said. No debt, no claim, you mend, I pay, you leave or stay on your own say. Clara picked up a wrench, a small hammer, and a coil of thin wire. You practice saying that. I run stages. A woman alone needs the terms plain. His voice was rough but not cold. She took a breath. Then here are mine. If I find why that bell is silent, nobody calls me baggage again. Agreed. She expected him to smile. He did not. He only nodded, as if her dignity had become part of the stage schedule. They climbed the platform together. Wade held the ladder steady, one hand on the rail and one hand visible. The crowd below watched. Lydia stood in the office doorway with her lips pressed thin. Cyrus moved near the coach horses, speaking low to the driver. At the bell housing, Clara found the scrape she had suspected. Green leather had rubbed against the black iron bracket. Not old moss, not paint. Do your freight straps use green leather? She asked. Wade's eyes narrowed. Mine use brown. Cyrus. Green, Wade said. She did not say the name yet. A name spoken too early could be laughed away. A mark held until the right moment could not. The clapper slot was too narrow to see deep inside without unbolting the lower plate. Clara reached for the wrench. Wade's hand came up, then stopped before touching her wrist. Plate sticks, he said. Last man who forced it dropped the wrench. Did he live? He did, his pride did not. This time Clara smiled first. Wade looked startled by it, and that small surprise warmed her more than the Nevada sun. The plate came loose on the third careful turn. Behind it, dust packed the bell throat. Clara eased 2 fingers in and touched leather. Green leather. Before she could pull it free, the spare rope below snapped. The bell housing jolted. Wade caught the bracket with his shoulder and planted his boots. Clara grabbed the rail. Below, Cyrus stepped back from the rope end with a knife half hidden by his sleeve. That woman is tampering with public equipment, he shouted. Marshal, are you blind? Marshal Ives came from the telegraph office, hat low, face tired. I see a rope cut fresh. Pell, the driver, stared at the rope end in the dust. His hand moved toward it, then stopped, as if even touching the proof might make him choose sides. Cyrus spread his hands, then asked who had the knife. Clara looked down. Every person in the yard stared up at her. She had stood on platforms before, but never like this, with her name hanging between proof and ruin. Lydia whispered from the office doorway, Clara. Clara climbed down slowly. What did he make you write? Lydia shook her head. What did Cyrus make you write? The station clerk's eyes filled. Unclaimed passenger, no paid return, no local sponsor. Clara felt the words strike harder than Cyrus's insult. Lydia had shared her mother's table for 2 winters back in St. Louis. Lydia knew exactly how long Clara had saved for that ticket. Why? Clara asked. Cyrus snapped, because it is true. Lydia's voice broke. Because he said I would lose my clerk job if I did not stamp it. He took your return money yesterday when the ticket packet came. He said you would marry him or walk. The yard went still. The laugh that had followed Clara from the train did not return. Men shifted their boots. A woman near the pump whispered, "That is stealing," and no one corrected her. Wade turned on Cyrus. You took her ticket. Cyrus's face darkened. I took nothing. She is desperate enough to accuse any man who will not marry her. The old shame tried to rise in Clara, but anger caught it by the throat. I am desperate enough to finish the work, she said. She opened her purse. $2 silver lay inside. Her last money in the territory, Enough for a poor meal and perhaps a cot if someone was kind, not enough for a train home. A rawhide peddler had stopped beside the pump with coils hanging from his wagon. Clara walked to him. How much for a rope strong enough for a bell? $2. Wade stepped in. Put it on my account. Clara closed her fingers around the coins. No, if the bell speaks, it speaks on my money too. Wade looked as if he wanted to argue. Then he saw what the choice cost her, and respect changed his face. Then I will hold the bracket, he said. I did not ask. No, he answered, but the road did. The rawhide peddler counted Clara's coins twice before handing over the coil. Not because he doubted the money, she thought, but because the yard had gone so quiet that every small act had become testimony. Cyrus watched from the pump. You are all being worked by tears and a ribbon. Clara reached up and unpinned the rose-colored bride ribbon from her hat. For one heartbeat, she saw what it had been that morning, hope folded into cheap silk. Then she tied it around the handle of the wrench so she would not lose the tool in the dust. There, she said, now it is useful. A murmur moved through the passengers. Wade's eyes followed the ribbon, then returned to her face. You did not have to do that. Yes, Clara said, I did. Lydia came out of the office carrying the ledger against her chest. Clara, I can give you a cot behind the telegraph desk tonight. Clara looked at her cousin, with Cyrus holding your job over the door. Lydia's mouth closed. Not tonight, Clara said. When you stand straight in daylight, maybe we will speak. The words hurt to say, but they steadied the ground under her. She could not build a new name out of the same silence that had helped steal the old one. Wade lifted the rawhide coil. Stage shed is open on 3 sides. Lanterns stay lit. Mrs. Roan from the laundry can sit by the pump if you want another woman near. That offer, too, was public. Not soft, not sweet, careful. Mrs. Roan charges for sitting, the laundry woman called from her doorway. Wade did not blink. Put it on the stage account. Clara almost smiled. I am beginning to see why Cyrus wants your license. I make poor men pay fare and rich men wait their turn. Dangerous habit. I am told so often. Pell, the square-shouldered driver, crossed from the coach and held out the broken rope end. This cut was made below the platform, not weather. Marshal Ives took it. I will keep that. Cyrus slapped dust from his sleeve. Keep every scrap you like. A cut rope does not make her honest. Clara met his gaze. No, my work will. For the first time since the train had left her in High Mesa, she saw Cyrus doubt the size of the woman he had tried to discard. By dusk the stage yard had thinned, but not emptied. Nobody wanted to miss the end of a public fall or the start of a public turning. Clara worked by lantern in the open shed, splicing rawhide to the old hemp. Wade held the bracket on the workbench. His scar caught the light. It was not ugly. It was a record of heat survived. The fire, Clara said quietly. Was it the canyon? Wade kept his eyes on the bracket. My brother drove the south stage. Bell failed during smoke. He took the wrong turn and lost 2 horses. He lived 3 days. He said no more than that, but it was enough for the grief to stand between them. And after that, she asked. I stopped ringing it. A silent bell cannot fail you. No, Wade said. It only fails everybody else. The honesty settled over them. Clara threaded the new rope through the guide. My father cast church bells and school bells. He used to say a bell is not metal. It is a promise people can hear. Wade looked at her then, not at the bride ribbon, not at Cyrus's rejection, at her. Cyrus is a fool, he said. Her hands paused. He added that was not courtship, that was plain arithmetic. Clara tightened the splice. Kind could wait, the bell could not. They worked until the rope ran clean through the wheel. Clara did not pull it yet. The clapper was still bound, and she wanted morning witnesses. Across the yard, Cyrus stood by his freight wagon long after dark, speaking to 2 toll riders. Each time Clara looked up, One of them looked away first. At sunrise, High Mesa looked washed in copper. The noon coach had been delayed once already. Passengers stood near the office, angry and nervous. Toll riders gathered by Cyrus's freight wagon. Lydia kept her eyes down and her hands away from the clerk's stamp. Clara climbed the bell platform with Wade behind her. This time her skirt caught on a nail, and Wade freed the hem with 2 fingers and no flourish. "Thank you," she said. "I can do small, useful things." "So can I." "I noticed." That simple sentence steadied her more than praise. She reached into the bell throat and drew out the green strap. It had been wound twice around the clapper and buckled hard. Stamped into the leather was a small mark, G.A.N.T. Freight and Toll. Wade's breath changed. Below them, the coach horses were already harnessed. If Cyrus forced that coach out before the bell spoke, every passenger would enter the canyon under his lie. "Do we show it now?" he asked. Clara looked at the passengers below. If she showed it too soon, Cyrus would call it planted. If she waited too long, the coach might roll toward Silent Canyon. "When he orders the coach out," she said, "then the road itself can answer." By 11, Cyrus had recovered his smile. He stood beside Marshal Ives with a folded paper. "This is a complaint from 3 freight men. Tolliver has delayed paid passage for the whim of a rejected woman. Suspend his license until Carson can review it." The marshal read slowly, his brows pulled together. Cyrus lifted his voice. "Load the coach." The driver hesitated. "Bell has not been tested." "The bell is dead." Wade walked to the lead horses and took their bridles. "No coach leaves while my name is on the line." "Then your name comes off the line," Cyrus said. Clara stepped onto the platform above them. Her heart hammered once, then settled. The whole yard could see her. So could Lydia, pale in the doorway. So could Cyrus, whose eyes had gone sharp with worry at last. "Mr. Gant," Clara called, "you said the bell died in the fire." "Everyone knows it." "Then you will not mind hearing it fail." She pulled the new rawhide rope. The bell rang. It rolled over the stage yard, deep and bright, waking dust from the rafters, startling the horses, sending every passenger's face upward. It rang again, stronger, the kind of sound that traveled down a canyon and told a driver where the road bent. Wade closed his eyes for one breath. Then he opened them and looked at Clara, as if she had returned more than sound. Cyrus lunged toward the ladder. "Stop her." He snapped his fingers at his toll riders. "Get her down." Neither man moved. One looked at the green strap in Clara's hand and took one step back. Marshal Ives caught his arm. "Why?" Clara held up the green strap. The bell was silent because Cyrus tied his green freight strap around its clapper. No one asked her to say it again. The proof was simple enough for the yard to hold. Wade took the strap from her only after she nodded. He showed the stamped mark to the marshal, the passengers, the driver, and the toll riders. Lydia stepped forward with the ticket book clutched to her chest. "He took her return fare. He made me stamp her unclaimed. He said if the canyon bell stayed dead, freight would miss the noon road and his toll shed would keep the contracts." Cyrus tried to laugh. It came out thin. "A clerk afraid for her job and a bride angry at rejection. That is your proof." The noon coach driver climbed down. "I lost 2 runs last month waiting on your toll orders after that bell stayed quiet." A freight hand raised his voice. "Gant charged storage on my load when the stage turned back." Another man said, "Green straps are his, everybody knows." For the first time that morning, Cyrus gave an order and the yard did not answer. Marshal Ives folded the complaint paper and put it in his pocket. "Cyrus Gant, your toll lease is suspended pending Carson review. Your freight bond is held at this office. You will hand over the stage yard pass keys." Cyrus looked at Wade. "You cannot do this." Wade's voice was low. "I did not, she did." That struck the yard harder than any shout. The key ring had hung from Cyrus's belt all morning like a badge. When he unhooked it, his hand shook once. Cyrus's keys hit the marshal's palm. His toll riders did not move to help him. The stage driver turned his back. Lydia placed the clerk's stamp on the desk and stepped away from it. 30 days without that stamp, Marshal Ives told Lydia. You will copy schedules under Miss Whit until I trust your hand again. Lydia nodded. Yes, Marshal. Clara did not forgive her. Not there. Not because a crowd wanted an easy ending, but she saw Lydia accept the cost, and that was enough for the day. Marshal Ives opened the station strongbox and counted out the coins Cyrus had taken from the ticket packet. He placed them on the desk in front of Clara, one by one, so the whole office could hear the small, hard sound. Return fare, he said, recovered from Mr. Gant's toll drawer. The money looked different now. That morning it had meant retreat. Now it meant proof that the road belonged to her again. Clara slid one coin back across the desk, for Mrs. Roan's sitting. The laundry woman, who had remained by the pump with her mending in her lap, gave a sharp nod. Paid fare. Clara pushed the second coin toward the rawhide peddler. For the rope. Already paid, the peddler said. Then for the next rope, a woman needs when men cut the first. The peddler grinned and took it. The yard remembered that too. Wade watched without speaking. Clara could feel the question in him. Why give away the money that could carry her out? She answered before he asked. I will not let Cyrus be the last man to decide what my fare means. Wade's voice softened. No, you will not. Cyrus made one last reach for Clara's letter. She came to marry me. I have the right to send her away. Clara took the letter from his hand before Wade could move. You had the right to answer honestly, she said. You had no right to steal my road. She tore the letter once, then again, and dropped the pieces into the dust by his polished boots. The noon coach loaded under the sound of the bell. Passengers who had watched Clara's shame now stepped aside so she could come down the ladder first. The driver touched his hat to her. Bellkeeper, he said, testing the words. Wade heard them, so did the marshal. Pell, the driver, took the old notice from the schedule board. It said all travelers entered Tolliver Canyon at their own risk while the warning bell remained out. He tore it down and handed it to Clara. You should be the one to burn that. Clara looked at the paper, then at the passengers waiting with valises and bedrolls. No, put it in the ledger. Let people remember who profited while it hung there. Lydia opened the ledger to a clean page. This time she did not wait for Cyrus's glance. She wrote what Clara said. Warning bell restored by Clara Whit, sabotage strap removed, noon coach held until safe ring. Marshal Ives signed beneath it. Pell signed after him. Wade signed last, his handwriting slow and careful. Cyrus had made Clara's name a stamp of shame. The ledger made it a record. At the schedule board, Wade took up a piece of chalk. His hand hovered beside the old line that read High Mesa warning bell. Out. He looked at Clara. Paid work. Stage clerk if you want it. Bellkeeper if you like the sound of it. The coach seat is still yours if you want the noon road. She stared at the waiting stage. It could carry her away from Cyrus, from Lydia, from the whole hard morning. Freedom had wheels and fresh teams. Then she looked at the bell rope hanging clean in the sun. What would the work pay? Wade named a fair wage in front of everyone. And if I refuse your courtship, she asked. The yard went silent again, hungry for the answer. Wade set the chalk down. Then you keep the wage, the title, and the road you choose. Clara felt the last of Cyrus's claim lose its grip. Ask me after the coach clears the canyon, she said. For the first time, Wade smiled. It changed his whole face, scar and all. The coach rolled out at noon. Clara stood on the platform and rang the bell as it entered the canyon road. The sound followed the horses through red stone and heat shimmer. It did not tremble, neither did she. When the echo faded, Wade wrote on the schedule board in large plain letters. Clara Whit, bellkeeper and stage clerk. Lydia copied it into the office ledger with careful ink. Marshal Ives sealed Cyrus's freight bond in a brown envelope. Cyrus watched from the far rail, hat in his hands, with no key ring, no lease paper, no bride letter, and no one waiting for his command. Wade came to stand beside Clara, leaving space enough for her to step away. "Miss Whit," he said, and his voice carried only as far as her. "May I court you proper after supper with no claim except the one you allow?" Clara looked at the board, then at the bell, then at the man who had trusted her skill before he asked for her heart. "After supper," she said, "and only if you let me ring the evening coach in first." With Cyrus below the far rail and her name drying on the schedule board, Clara took the restored rope in both hands. The evening coach rolled in slow, its wheels red with canyon dust, and Clara rang the High Mesa bell by choice. The same yard that had laughed when she arrived now stood still and listened. This time, the bell did not call her someone's rejected bride. It called her home,